Like the auto white balance turns me into a fucking vampire every time I wear a red shirt. What do we have here? Well, it is day. Uh, wait, is it day six? Yeah, day 16, I think, of our live streaming. Let me just take a look. So it says day 16. Yeah, day 16 is the right one, I think. Or should we be day 17? Yeah, 16. It's hard to keep track, and it's like one of those numbers where it'll kind of just roll out of my brain as we're working on it here. So glad that this is happening. So we're up to chapter 17, and let me. Hopefully, logic is around because this is where it gets into like all the plane shit. Let's see. I thought I saw him chatting earlier. Oh, he was up at 4:23, but I woke up a little bit later today. I went to go for a walk, but it's raining outside, so it might just be me by my lonesome here. Uh, and I gotten so spoiled by having other people around. Well, this will be like a good comparison for for all the other times where I just had like this amazing support and like this other set of eyes on the work and so forth. So life is going good for me. Was able to secure victory on Valentine's Day, and so EFS Enable is saying that Logic doesn't know shit about planes, but that he does. But I think were he to come into the edit stream, it would just be about how Bossy Boss like pivoted an Immelman into a little bory baby or some nonsense like that. This is a fucking infamous Autismo on FNet, who we've just all known for like years and years, and he'll never change. All right, what do we got here? So the viewer count on Restream Chat has been broken fucking forever, and we have one concurrent viewer. So shout out to that one person. I guess I had the day off yesterday. I didn't do much of import. I didn't like really cook anything. I was like too depressed because I was like just my body was out of serotonin. Too depressed to like do the dishes even, and somebody else had to take out the trash. So just like a complete piece of shit there. But one thing that I did have was like a pretty cool idea when some of the snow melts here to just this is an idea that I've had before, but to just travel to each of the locations in Lemon Maybe and take a picture of each for like the like a good high contrast photo at each location for just like the chapter art there, because I would love to do and you know maybe I could take each and like work with an artist and turn each into like a comic book style sketch or something like that. And so as I was thinking about it, like one of the things I was like, yeah, I'd love to do this, but like everybody's going to be wearing a fucking mask. So I might just have to camp out and like wait until I could get shots of people without masks. All right. So I don't know who's you in the stream, but I'm going to show you something that nobody else gets to see. Are you ready for this? So here is a proof of the new Fractal Girl shirt. You can see that the Fractal Girl logo is kind of off center and shit. And all the green in it has been green screened out. So you can see like the letters and shit through it. So this is, I can't turn on off the green screen, but it came out really well actually. I actually think it looks dope on the green screen, but it like makes me look like I've got huge fucking bosoms because the bar like is here. It's just not, it's not well designed, which is why I order prints when I do shirt design and so forth, just so that I can see like, oh, did you fuck this up and so forth, and then you just redo it, and until you get a shirt that you're happy with. Yeah, I learned that the hard way doing merchandise. Like Streamlabs actually sent out a bunch of shirts for me that like fucking smelled like mustard, and the printing quality was just terrible. It was all pixelated and everything. And thereafter, forevermore, I always am careful. I've got like 3 people watching on Twitch. All right, well, this is comment up if you see me fucking something up. But anyhow, yeah, I learned a valuable lesson, and it's if you're gonna sell stuff to like your viewers or fans or whatever, you need to buy a piece of everything first and take a look at it yourself and make sure that it's something that you would want. Like, because I had to refund everybody's money, and most of them wouldn't take it. They were just like, just treat it like a donation. It's fine. I'll like put the shirt on my dog or something like that. But I like desperately do not want to saddle people with like shitty merchandise. There's just enough of it in the world, and I like, I don't know. I never like want to make a profit on even on books and so forth. I read this saying the other day that said, if you're good at something, don't do it for free. And I like thought about it, and I'm like, oh, my books are fucking for free. Oh wait. What did you really like the mustard? Did you get one of the mustard smelling shirts? Oh, that's fucking amazing, Strata. Um, but glad you're here. 'Cause I need like this is one where what is it? The other day, even when you weren't here, we were like thinking about like how do we introduce like olfactory feedback or something like that into a scene. Um, but so this is one where I want to make sure that we get the now I wish I did. So like I'm a big mustard fan myself in general. And let's see, one kind that we all love. I think they make it in Asheville, North Carolina. It's called Lusty Monk mustard. And so if you get a hold of this, you know that they're the real deal because they're like put the shit in your refrigerator right away. Because like the potent, kind of searing, mustardy horseradish thing that they've got going on actually like fades with time if it's just sitting on like a shelf or whatever. So they ship it out to you in like refrigerated things, and I tell you, it is like a very potent whole grain mustard, and it's the best mustard that I've found. So and you can order it online. They have like a um, mm, they had like some gift pack that had like a chipotle mustard with it too. I just realized that I can try that, but yeah, it's quite good right there. So we used to have a game at my house called Mustard, and it was like one of those stupid relationship games where like if somebody said mustard and you could point out mustard, you win. Is like, almost as if we're toddlers or something like that. But I used to play it with my ex and I just had like tons of little goofy in jokes like that. We were really children at heart. So at some point I just got like this giant 1 pound thing of mustard powder. It's that I think it's like McCormick or something like that, where it's that big yeller thing, and it's this huge tin of mustard, more than any human being could ever use if they don't run an industrial kitchen. And so that's still sitting around here, so that you can always point to mustard. You can always be a winner at mustard. Yeah, it's weird how like I remember all the little dumb things that we would do together that were just super cutesy or whatever. Like whenever we were sitting like at a diner or something like that, having a conversation, each of us would wait until the other was like deeply enmeshed in the conversation and try to line up like all the salt shakers and ketchup bottles and stuff like that, so it pointed in a straight line at the other person, and then like you could be like, gotcha, and they're just like, damn, like they've been distracted again, and then everything was pointed at them, and yeah, it just reminds me of this there was like I think it was like I'm okay, you're okay, or whatever, where the psychologist tried to like dumb down relationships to like people interact with each other um either as like children, as their parents, or as like rational adults and so forth. Ground mustard is great. Use it a lot. Toss it into burger meat. Yeah, like that was one of the first marinades that that like particular ex that I was talking about, where mustard was like a part of the relationship for some fucking reason. Her big marinade was Worcestershire sauce and mustard powder, and it's actually like pretty good for meat. And I come from a school of like red wine based marinades for the most part for meat, where it's like a little red wine and some garlic and some honey and like some ground mustard and well, anyhow, this ain't a cooking show right here. So this is chapter 17, The Winged Messenger. And at this point in the narrative, so this is if you're just tuning in and have no idea what's going on, I do the same as that X. It's a good marinade. Yeah, it's very simple. Um, I'm like a marinating fool. Nowadays, one of the things that I learned this like way too late in the game, is that when I marinate things, I'll often marinate them along with a bunch of either slivered or finely chopped onions. And then after, like while the meat is cooking, I'll take like the bag of marinade and reduce it with like all those onions, and I'll like simmer them down and so forth, and make like this very potent. Oh shit! It's Rogue Editor. It's been a hot second. But yeah, I'll simmer the whole thing down to a jus, and then often you can pour some of that off and use it as like a sauce for the steak or some kind of accoutrement. And then you take the all the onion and everything, and you've added some garlic at that point, and just sort of whip it into whatever your starch, or like in this case, I'm usually doing a lot of cauliflower rice. But there's one thing that I'm really liking about sous videing is taking all the juice from whatever meat that I'm cooking in, and just adding other stuff that like isn't necessarily going to impart that much to the meat, like having some onion sous videing with it, or garlic definitely does add to the flavor. But it's just having all those things slow cooking along with the meat, and then turning them into a sauce, and then putting that sauce into the secondary component, whether it's like fried broccoli or whatever. And I like capturing every part of the process and using everything, like all the oils and everything that run off. Just feels like a closed circuit, like I'm on a spaceship where we have to recycle our biomatter into hot dogs. So if you haven't watched this stream at all, we're getting close to the end of the book right here. We're at 147 pages, so we have 53 pages left to wow you. This is the story of Trader, who's a prisoner being held on a space station that we now know is called Ananke Station. And he's being trained to fly one final mission to try and save humanity. So he's going through like a boot camp type situation. He's learning to fly one of these fully organic fighter planes or bombers, or you're not 100% sure what's going on. And throughout the entirety of the book, it was about him getting abused and brainwashed and dealing with the other prisoners and so forth. Now they're finally flying on the mission. But the conditions of the training were so harsh that they are down to only 3 of them are left alive out of 400 or 500 people that were on the station initially. And indeed, like many of the people who were directly in his squadron in the last chapter, they had a journey of, they were basically like flying through this null space bubble for almost a year, and 2 of the other pilots perished on that journey, just from different malfunctions. And like one character had a very specific malfunction to her. Should have wrapped that shit up. But anyhow, that's the story of what's going on in this book right here. And now we're getting to the final chapter. And I don't mind telling you that the final chapters are meant to be like a big trippy fucking acid trip the whole way through. I mean, this whole thing is meant to be the character like essentially peeking and getting visuals and meeting up with space gnomes and whatnot. There is really wild. So what do we got here? So chapter 17, The Winged Messenger. This is XEROS by Zach Z. Wisey. We're now in day 16 of editing. And just a reminder, we have a leaderboard. So if you suggest an edit, we will put you on the leaderboard, and you'll be thanked personally by yours truly in the book. And I think, so I haven't published any of the books that we did this in, but one of the things that I'm going to do is for the other books where we had like a leaderboard and so forth, for the top 3 editors, I will give the option to, if you'd like, you can put in a line beneath your name, like your own personal epigraph or some inside joke or whatever. You don't have to do it, but you can put a line into the acknowledgments page of the book. Please don't abuse this and have it be like 1488 Hail Hortler or whatever nonsense. Like, let's keep it classy. Let's get down to it. The Winged Messenger. We were but a handful of black diamonds flung at the stars. Only 3 bombers emerged from null space. Null space, we've been hyphenating thus far. Murderous and addict had drifted into the fringe. They would litter our path for an eon. Our objective loomed before us. Our objective was ahead. Only a centimeter in diameter at this distance. Okay, so I hope to God that I that I actually did the so when I was fooling around with this, I because we get into like actual intercept times and so forth, I was using a sort of 3D space exploration program to actually try and get like the relative sizes of how large their objective would be to their canopy. This needs to be checked because like their target might be a millimeter. Okay. Because like I know in my mind I know like how many million kilometers they are from their target right here, and I had to go through this program and just check so that I wasn't describing this as being like gigantically huge or whatever. I'm on the wrong chat. Ugh. Every comma on screen right now has a has an error in it. All right. Well, let's. I don't think that that's true. Hold on. Ugh. Yeah, I'd like to shout out to my endocrine system. Look at how red my nose is after that. I'm like fucking Rudolph over here. Ugh, ridiculous. And I do try to like blow my nose away from the mic, like Tay or whatever. Our objective was ahead, only a centimeter in diameter. At this distance, it was only a centimeter in diameter. Oh, there's Logic. Thank God, Logic. We're at like the actual flying the mission part. We need you. Until this moment, I hadn't truly believed that this could be our mission. It was too insane. But now, comma, there was no denying it. We were flying directly into a star. There you go. There's our big reveal. Whoa. Some clown just Spathywah is there too. Um, uh, let's listen to both because this is a suggestion that has merit. We were but a handful of black diamonds flung at the stars. We were a handful of black diamonds flung at the stars. Yeah. All right, let's do it. Let's cut that. And then stratum suggestion. Clear the entire site cache every time somebody submitted the contact form. So it took 43 seconds to submit, and the site ran like dog shit after anyone used it. All right. Let's look at the. No, there was no denying it. That is it. That is a good suggestion. But a handful. Yeah. So, I mean, they're two different sentences, right? We were a handful of black diamonds, right? The but there reduces their scope as compared to what's happening there. Like before the vastness of space, we're but a handful of black diamonds. Let's take a look. Their corpses would litter our path for an eon. Their remain. Let's do remains. I don't want to get. Why is there? Hmm. Yeah, it doesn't work. I don't see a word joining those two because they're two. It's a dependent clause. Let's see. Yeah, Like I see where you're coming from, but I don't know how to fix that guy. Butts going back in. Yeah, it just I need the it does a little work to make it a comparative scale. So that has to stick back in there. Now look at me, I'm so ornery today. Only a semi. Okay, we. All right. I'm gonna give Spathy his point then. Yeah, why is it? All right. Their remains would litter our path for an eon. Our objective was ahead. At this distance, it was only a centimeter in diameter. Until this moment, I hadn't truly believed this could be our mission. It was too insane. Now there was no denying it. We were flying directly into a star. And this needs italics. Into a star. Every part of my body was screaming no. I don't like every part of my body. At the back of my mind. So I don't like constant scream there. Um, let's get to. Hmm. At the back of my mind, a warning repeated like a klaxon. No! Fire up the reactor and retreat. Oh, fuck. Oh, fuck. There we go. Let's Control Shift I. The next time I fuck that up. Uh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's just take it that. Let's tune it down. I had a scrambling compulsion. Mm. Mm, yeah. Let me think about it. Oh, it's getting hot in here just from the effort of thinking. So Rocco Siegfried, thank you. How long are you doing these streams daily for? Surprisingly entertaining to listen to while working. Yeah, it's just having like a dumb voice in your ear is like the only good thing about it there. We will only do this for another 5 or 6 days, so get all your editing in while you can. We get about 10 pages a day, and there are 47 pages left. You like Scrambling Compulsion? I was just thinking it was like a little overwrought. But so anyhow, unfortunately, these are punctuated by like these gulfs of silence where I write another book. And I haven't decided which book I'm going to do next. I might let readers vote. In fact, we can vote on it right here. Because after I complete this book and I go through my customary 2 weeks of being super fucking depressed with postpartum depression, which always happens to me. Every time I finish a book, I go into a deep depression because I'm done. You know, I never get to work on the book again. And I love Scrambling Compulsion. It makes me want eggs. So anyhow, if you're interested in this, you can start thinking about what you want to see next. So there are 3 potential books, maybe 4, that I might work on writing. I like the idea of instinct right there. So just to give you an idea of what I've got in the chamber, a short story about submarines after in a water world type situation where they go around. I'll probably do something like that. A story about submarines where they go around and hunt mega yachts, like after the world has been flooded. That one I'll probably do just because I want to write like a short 6,000 word story about that. But XEROS began as a short 6,000 word story about this. So just anytime I start writing something, it spins out into a fucking novel. So that's option 1. Option 2 is I can finish Eclipse. Or Ellipse, which is a story about a planet with a wide elliptical orbit, where every generation the characters hatch from eggs, like with no parental guidance or whatever, and it's about the instinctual development of language in a world where for like 80% of the time the planet is uninhabitable, and these huge stretches of iciness, like an ice age, punctuated by like a brief spring, where everybody hatches from eggs and has to reestablish their culture over and over again. So that's 2. Ellipse is a work that we could work on. 3 is a new work called Vas Inane, which would be a loose collection of short stories about a frontier town where there are tons of like dueling wizards there. Option 4 would be I could rewrite Rapasaurus and get it ready for an editing stream, probably put like a new chapter on it. Rapasaurus is a long fantasy dungeon crawler about an entire mountain of a dungeon that's populated with demons, where the main characters make all kinds of shady deals with demons to try and escape from the dungeon. Then number potential 5 is that I could take the 3 other books of the Master Arcanist, so volumes 1 through 4, and probably write books 5 and 6 of it right there, and set them up as 2 distinct books in a like eventual trilogy right there, and then we could edit those. But Master Arcanist just did not have a lot of fans. The Blind Wizard didn't really appeal to somebody. And then potential 6 is a book called Rub, which is very long. It's set in New Mexico, and it's about like an Asian massage parlor, where if you go into the massage parlor, the woman there will massage you into whatever form you most desire in your heart of hearts, but she will not change you back. So those are like 6 projects that any one of those I could pick out and work on. I'm probably, I think I'm probably gonna like do some light work on Vas Inane and try and write that submarine story right there. So that'll probably take up about a month of my time, and then I'll start sinking my teeth into another big project. So the first option is going to be a book about submarines, just sort of rigged together attack submarines fighting mega yachts in the distant future where there's been like a flooding calamity. And then 2 is probably this collection of short stories about a frontier town where wizards are just constantly fucking with each other and everybody hates them. and there's like miners and so forth, and they just have to deal with these asshole magicians constantly squabbling with each other. Um, and Ellipse and Rapasaurus ideas. Yeah, Ellipse is pretty fun. So in Ellipse, like human, they were like I can't give away too much of the plot here, but it's a lot about people establishing languages over and over and over again, and the different permutations that they make. And it might be like one of those cyclic things where we have like several generations of characters. Um, yeah, I never got into Discworld, so I never really read it. All right. But anyhow, those are the options that we can look forward to. But for now, I like to focus on what we got going on here, because we just have one edit left to live. Yeah, I hate like knowing that we're running out of book here. I wish it was longer, but we were flying directly into a star, into a star. Hmm. Into a star, into a star at a gay bar. Yeah, it fucking writes itself. The thought triggered some survival. Yeah. The thought triggered my survival instinct, a maddening compulsion to fire the reactor and retreat. I peered ahead at the white dwarf, distracting myself. Afraid I might panic, I peered ahead at the white dwarf and tried to identify it. Yeah. No, scrambling's not off the table. Yeah, I like scrambling just fine there. Let's give that to logic. In that magic, the thesaurus. Mm-hmm. The thought triggered my survival instinct, filling me with a scrambling compulsion to fly. Oh yeah, that's yeah. I had a scrambling, instinctual compulsion. I felt an instinctual compulsion to turn around, fire my reactor, and retreat. Yeah, I like that better. Yeah. Instinct compelled me to turn around, fire my reactor, and retreat. My canopy darkened as it lensed forward, protecting my eyes. Even at this great distance, the star could damage them. I was frail. I was insignificant. I was nothing. The star was enormous beyond comprehension. The only thing more vast was XEROS' hubris for dreaming we could destroy it. I couldn't yet see the star mine. During approach, our orders were to fly quenched and clenched. I love this word here. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I honestly like cirrhosis sounds better, but it's kind of like a little. If he was drunk, I would definitely make it cirrhosis. So it sounds like cirrhosis, but no, the pilot isn't alone right now. There are 3 ships remaining, and we say that only 3 bombers emerged from null space. Corrupt liar and I. Now let's make this myself. Myself. Corrupt liar and myself. I feel like myself is more selfish than I. Um, so yeah, there are 3 ships remaining. And believe me, I had to like count these every single time I went to write so that I didn't fuck it up. All right, what do we got here? I couldn't yet see the star mine. During approach, our orders were to fly quenched and clenched, with our reactors at nil output and no maneuvering. It was a tremendous effort of faith. Our path had been manually calculated by a Hezo navigator on the ring ship. He had to hit a tiny mark on a rotating sphere. He had to hit a tiny mark on a rotating sphere more than 1,000,000 kilometers in diameter, from a distance of light years. How many light years? There was ample time to wonder as the star loomed ever larger before me. For a year in the dark, I had been trying to figure out which star could be our target. Now that we arrived, Needs colon before listing their names. Oh, fuck me. Yeah. Okay. I'll give you the colon point. Do they have any intership communication? Only like visual communication. Like in a previous scene, one of the people was like basically using like signing letters against the canopy glass, but they're not allowed to have radios or anything. Um, but essentially, their canopies are described as like sort of powerful telescopes. Like they're basically the canopy can act as a lens and focus like powerfully. It's described as like kind of a partially sentient glass type thing. Fuck, why are people messaging me on Discord? Fuck off. Oh, it's another one of these Bitcoin scams. Fucking stupid. Nobody clicks on these. I couldn't yet see the star mine. And this is the first mention of the star mine, by the way. So we could say something like, I couldn't yet see the star mine that was our target. But I don't think we need further exposition there. During approach, our orders were to fly quenched and clenched, with our reactors at nil output and no maneuvering. It was a tremendous effort of faith. Our path had been manually calculated by a Hezo navigator on the ring ship. He had hit a tiny mark on a rotating sphere more than 1,000,000 kilometers in diameter, at a distance of light years. How many light years? There was ample time to wonder as the star loomed ever larger before me. It's not looming at this point. Looming is totally the wrong word. He's looking at, it's described as being a centimeter across. And I think we should think about their approach as being something like about 150,000 kilometers per second. All right, hold on. I'm going to stratum that point too. There we go. There was ample time to wonder. It would be a long time before I reached the star. For a year in the dark, I had been trying to identify our target. Now that we had arrived, I had more data to try and figure it out. Yeah, there we go. There was ample time to wonder. It would take days to reach the star. For a year in the dark, I had been trying to identify our target. Now that we had arrived, I had more data to try and solve the puzzle. I didn't know what multiple of C we'd been accelerated to, but if it was less than 10... If it was less than 10C, I think the Hezo wouldn't have risked using their irreplaceable ring ship. I didn't know what... I didn't know what multiple of C we'd been accelerated to, but if it was less than 10C, I think the Hezo wouldn't have risked using their irreplaceable ring ships. Ring ship is capitalized here, but not before. Instead, they would... All right, let's look at this. There was ample time to wonder. It would take many hours to reach the star. For a year in the dark, I had been trying to identify our target. Now that we had arrived, I had more data to try. Now that we had arrived at the system, there was more data I could use to try and solve the puzzle. I didn't know what multiple. So this is really like a puzzle working shit out chapter. I didn't know what multiple of C we'd been accelerated to, but if it was less than 10C, I think the Hezo wouldn't have risked using the. I didn't know what multiple of C we'd been accelerated to. If it was less than 10C, if it was less than 10 times the speed of light, I think the Hezo wouldn't have risked using the irreplaceable ring ships. Okay, cool. I had been trying to identify our target. Now that we had arrived at the system, there was more data I could use to try and solve the puzzle. I didn't know what multiple of C we'd been accelerated to. If it was less than 10 times the speed of light, I think the Hezo wouldn't have risked using the irreplaceable ring ships. For a shorter jump, we would have been on a carrier. It would have been a carrier jump. The squadron had performed 45 alignments at 200 hours per. Yeah, 200 is. I don't think you hyphenate 200. Okay, so rogue. The squadron had performed 45 alignments at 200 hours per, so we'd been in flight for just over a year. Okay, there we go. 10 light years from our origin point, minimum. I started by considering the closest possible stars and figuring up from there. The drills never told us what system Ananke Station was hidden in, and I would have been executed for asking. I had to figure it out myself. During our training missions, I could sometimes make out stellar flares from a nearby star, a particularly cantankerous red dwarf. By itself, that hardly narrowed it. By itself, that hardly narrowed the possibilities. But during one training session, I saw two simultaneous flares. Our main star had a smaller, less luminous companion. That narrowed the field down considerably. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. That was a big help. Figured up from there. Ooh, actually, no. I started by considering the closest possible stars and figured up from there. Yeah, that works. It just feels kind of wrong. Um, but during one training session, I saw two simultaneous flares. Our main star had a smaller, less luminous companion. That was the key. My guess is those two red dwarfs were Andromedae GX and GQ. That was the key to figuring it out. My guess is those two red dwarfs were Andromedae GX and GQ. If I was right, it meant a non-case station was in Groombridge 34. A system so remote and irrelevant, comma, the Hezo hadn't bothered to change its ancient vanity designation. It made perfect sense. Groombridge 34 was at the very limits of Hezo-controlled space, as far from the front as possible. Even in that utter backwater, they were still falling apart. They were still falling apart. There we go. The power to change that was in my hands, the spur controls of my Yama bomber. Of my Yama 10 bomber. I tightened my grip. I loosened my grip, careful not to activate the thrusters and give us away. My arms felt strong. The anti-atrophy agents had done their work. My legs were a little less solid. I felt pins and needles as I stretched them. My left big toe came in contact with something hard and unyielding. Okay, my arms felt strong. My arms felt strong and awake. The anti-atrophy agents had done their work. My legs were a little less solid. I felt pins and needles as I stretched them. Schipfleisch. I would love to call it Schipfleisch. Um, I think that's a decent that's a decent fucking hyphen right there. I wish he could say Schipfleisch, but he can't. He's not German. So here, let's see if we hyphenate pins and needles because it's almost a compound phrase. Let's oh, just FYI, here's the size of UY Scooty. Scooty Scooty, the largest star discovered in the universe so far. Gangsta. That's so big. Uh, no, why do we have fucking images? Oh, there's no hyphens. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I'm wrong. This anti-atrophy pills got me swole, homie. Yeah, it's literally that's probably what's fucking going on. He'll like Hulk out at some point. Okay, big rewrites right there. It'll leave the GUI center right there. We get into that a little bit, yeah. My legs weren't as solid. They were a cramping mess of pins and needles. As I stretched them out, my left big toe came in contact with something hard and unyielding amidst the ship flesh. I ignored the sensation. I didn't trust myself to think about that yet. Critical plot point. Mm. Mm. With great effort, I craned my head around the canopy, trying to. Yeah, why is that great effort? I craned my head around the canopy. I craned my head around the canopy, looking for more clues to solve the mystery of our target. Are the bioships sentient at all? They are less sentient than a dog, right? And this isn't. We don't get into this in the story. Oh, actually, I think we at some point we get into like how sentient they are, but they're like about as sentient as your liver, right? Just think about the ship as like an organ where it can respond to some specific stimuli, but they're like basically there's like some kind of ship brain controlling a lot of the functions and so forth. But yeah, it's like it's just reacting to stimuli that it gets from the ship. But like in terms of like it wouldn't think of itself as like I am a thing that can be born or die or anything like that. So it'd be much more like an anemone or like a coral or something like that, where it's alive and it's performing functions and it can react to stimuli in its environment. But it's not at all what I would call like a thinking thing. Like it's not able to assist him with targeting, for instance, or figure out how fast it's going or do any kind of calculations. Like when the canopy is like telescoping, it's just responding to like a neural interface that is tracking his eyes. I want more life, fucker. Mm. I craned my head around the canopy, looking for more clues. Yeah, we don't need. I love when I could just look. I can just cut out like a whole fucking sentence because it's useless, right? I craned my head around the canopy, looking for more clues. If this was Rigel Centaurus, where were Ptolemy and Proxima Centauri? I love having like all these star names in here too, and all of these are like I spent some time researching where each one was. Yeah, The liver ship caught that cirrhosis. Um, I felt a strange deja vu. There was something oddly familiar about this system. Then, as I twisted my neck to look behind us, I had my answer. Too bright to be a star. A glittering silver disk was behind us, too bright to be a star. The disk's rim was fringed with a verdigris of green. It was surrounded by the gossamer threads of an orbital lattice. Ship traffic made them appear to shimmer. The messenger. All right, so at this point, everybody knows where we at, and what star is our target. A glittering silver disk was behind us, too bright to be a star. Then, as I twisted my body to look behind us, I had my answer. A glittering silver disk. Too bright to be a star. No, yeah, we gotta take out the verdigris of green. A glittering silver disk, too bright to be a star. It was surrounded by the gossamer threads of an orbital lattice. Ship traffic made them appear to shimmer. The messenger. The monster looming before me was Sol. XEROS had sent us to destroy the sun. You knew it was going to be the sun. How could we not blow up the fucking sun? Love it. So I don't know how, like, well, obviously they're going to attack the sun. I don't know how obvious that is to the reader up to here. But anybody who knows me knows of my my long-standing desire to destroy the sun. And so this should come as no surprise. The monster in my sights was Sol. XEROS had sent us to destroy the sun. For the long hours of approach, the revelation burned in my mind like stellar fusion. Mercury, Old Earth, Phobos, Europa, Cassini Station, the skeleton system, our depleted, forgotten homeland. A graveyard of barren rock where every molecule of useful material had been stripped away and cast into the stars. With every bone picked, the collaborators must have turned their gaze inward. They were devouring Sol itself. It's lucky, since we know a lot more about this particular star than the other ones. In Superman 4, he throws all the nuclear missiles of the entire planet into the sun, and it didn't even make a blip. Very accurate. I had to do research on that whole thing. The star mine was our target. XEROS had briefed us that the collaborators... This star mine was our target. XEROS had briefed us that the collaborators had developed technology which allowed them to tunnel into stars. And I think we capitalized collaborate. The collaborators had developed technology which allowed them to tunnel into stars, so they could mine vast quantities of exotic materials at the moment of creation. For decades, they had been pouring resources into this mine. We were brief. They had been... Mhm. Oh, I'm there. I'm already there. During the briefing, we learned the collabs had been pouring resources into this pilot star mine for decades, stripping worlds and beggaring entire systems. But the payoff. Once the first star mine was online, it would enable the construction of countless others. In a few short centuries, the collaborators would be a Type 2 civilization. The Hezo collective prosperity sphere would be as irrelevant to them as bacteria. But the collaborators had bet everything on this first star mine. It seemed a safe bet. Who could have dreamed the backward Hezo would invent a weapon capable of destroying a star? Who would dream? It seemed a safe bet. Who would dream the backward Hezo could invent a weapon capable of destroying a star? XEROS told us if we could destroy the star mine completely, the collaborators would be ruined. In the chaos that followed, the Hezo would rise from the ashes and overwhelm them. Let's call them Hezo loyalists here. One empire would fall, another would rise. I was riding on top of the bomb that could decide it all. No, you have to have a comma there. It's a completely different clause. It seemed a safe bet. Yeah, let's just separate it into two separate sentences. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. It seemed a safe bet. Who would dream the backward Hezo could invent a weapon capable of destroying a star? Yeah, there we go. One empire would fall, another would rise. I was riding on top of the bomb that could decide it all. I could feel it, the power. I could feel it thrumming through my arms, resonating through my symbiotic husk of corybantic phase diamond. The power to destroy a star. If I could only make it to the target depth. It wasn't enough to simply fling bombs at the sun. We had to sneak inside the mine and detonate as deep as possible. If I wanted to bring the giant down, I needed to reach the tachocline. So show of hands, who, without Wikipediaing, knows what the tachocline is? Don't all hop in here at once. We'll get into it in the story. But yeah, throughout the rest of the book, we'll look deeply into the inner... Oh, Logic, why don't you tell us what the tachocline is? Do-dee-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. The double Dixon. Do-dee-do-do-do-do. R.I.P. to Alex Trebek. Thermocline, but not a tachocline. At the beginning of the book, we need to have a diagram of at the back of the book. Okay. So at the back of the book in the glossary, we're going to have a diagram of the different layers of the sun. So tachocline is the border between the core and the mantle. No. So the tachocline is the difference between the radiative zone and the convection zone. And We think it's like about 100 kilometers wide. Everything that we know about it is through mathematical modeling, but it's an area of intense magnetic activity. And we think that a lot of what's happening in the sun magnetically is between these two layers because they're rotating at different speeds, right? The convection zone is rotating at a different speed than the radiative zone. And where they interface, it generates this tremendous magnetic activity. It's like a fucking dynamo. So Streamlabs didn't kick out my chat, but you can see it right there. I don't know. I don't know. Well, I think Restream does the chat, not Streamlabs. Wait, did you do a? Okay. Yeah, it is where the convection layer boundary is. So this will become a critical plot point as we go forward. I love that we're just like diving into the. This is I worked all book to get to the point where I could have a mission where somebody was just flying into a star. This is ridiculous, yeah. And I'm happy because I think that we have earned the right to have a guy flying into a star on a suicide mission with all the building blocks that we laid here. It was just so that we could get to this point and talk about the sun. But it's a big diversion, right? So if you were somebody who was like really getting off on all the torture and the military shit and so forth, I wonder like if I'm going to hold your attention with this section here. So it's something I want to be cognizant of. And there is going to be a great temptation to get too technical and lose readers. So that's something that we're looking at because it's a completely different book. Like literally this next 40 pages or something like that, completely different style. It's more of like a science adventure. And before that, it was like a military thing. But we'll throw in some other stuff to keep it interesting. Soul dominated my attention over the long approach, growing larger by the second. I became aware of a silvery thread running almost parallel to my flight path. At first, I thought it was perhaps a piece of debris from addict or murderess, but it was too distant. As I squinted into the darkness, the canopy assisted my vision until I could resolve the links in the chain. They were individual ships. The strand was a line made of thousands of freighters. Most were long, silvery cargo cylinders, but there were also tankers, bony reefers strapped down with machinery, and ore boats laden with unprocessed asteroids. Okay. All right. Hold on, let me go through this again, because I just breezed through that right there, and it's so technical. Soul dominated my attention over the long approach, growing larger by the second. I became aware of a silvery thread running almost parallel to my flight path. At first, I thought perhaps it was a piece of debris from addict or murderess. Let's just take that out. As I squinted into the darkness, the canopy assisted my vision until I could resolve the links in the chain. They were individual ships. The strand was a line made of thousands of freighters. Most were long, silvery cargo cylinders. There were also pill-shaped tankers. Bony reefers strapped down with machinery. And reefers bulging with machinery. There we go. And Tic Tacs and beach balls. Yeah. So here's a question. So a reefer is a refrigerated ship. Oh, okay. All right. So now it makes sense. For a second, I was like, they're in fucking space. Why do they have refrigerated ships? It's where they're going that they need the refrigeration. Bulging space noodles. Reefers bulging with cryo machinery and bony ore boats laden with unprocessed asteroids. The freighters flew nose to tail in such perfect synchronization that I thought there must be a linkage between them. The freighters flew nose to tail in such perfect synchronization that I thought they must be a train. That I thought they must be a star train with a linkage between each ship. So this is just my shout out to railroad nerds watching this. There's no fucking space train. I scanned along the line as it disappeared into the darkness. There was no beginning or end I could see. I've done 20,000 plus miles on trains. That's pretty gangsta. Do you ever want to go on like that Trans-Siberian Railroad? I've dated a lot of girls that have wanted to like at some point do that journey. Star Train Express. Next stop, Booty Planet. Holding my fist to the canopy as a reference, I guessed I was still more than 10 million kilometers from Seoul. I thought this line. Surely the line couldn't possibly stretch all the way to the star mine. But I never saw a break in the chain. Spoiler, it does. um, needs that. Oh yeah, we do need that. You can see where I've like over removed that's in this story right there. Um, great, except for no good for 7/10 of the quest unless you go stacked. No good food. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like that going through anywhere that they're just fucking dirt poor. Like going through Guatemala, like most of the food not so fantastic because they don't have fucking anything. Like salt is a luxury. Rode the train from St. Petersburg to the Urals and then back to Moscow. I always like train. My favorite train is the besides the one that goes from Amsterdam to Essen, so I can buy new board games. There is the train that goes from Portland to Vancouver. Oh no, from Seattle to Vancouver, where the sun is setting and so forth. I'm always gushing about this motherfucker, but it's a great train. Everybody should go. As Seoul swelled to occupy more and more of my canopy, I began to notice more filaments, more silver filaments. Each was another line of freighters. Soon I could make it. All right, so this is where we're getting crazy. As Seoul swelled to occupy more and more of my canopy, I began to notice more silver filaments flying towards it. Flying towards the star mine. Each was another line of freighters. Soon I could make out a great vortex of scrans converging on the star mind. Oh, that's why. Soon I could make out a great vortex of strands converging on the star mine. I tried to calculate how many there were, how much cargo they might be carrying. The numbers were simply too big for me. They kept slipping out of my head. Suggestion kept slipping out the other side of my head. I hear what you're saying, but I don't think it works. They kept slipping out of my head. They kept slipping out the other side of my head. I could only imagine hollowed out moons and siphoned up seas, a great dusty desert where the asteroid belt had once been. Kept slipping out the other side of my head. Nah, I see what you're saying, where like one thought is pushing the other out of the head, but it's a little cliche. Um, the numbers are simply too big for me to hold in my head. I like that better. And I love this. Hollowed out moons and siphoned up seas, a great dusty desert where the asteroid belt had once been. As I gazed at this incredible display of organization, I was reminded of Ananke Station, tripping over tangled pneumatic lines and huddling with the others as we slowly froze to death in the dark. How did we ever dream we could fight this? Um, so you're correct that we can make this an Oxford comma situation right here. We're not going to make that change, and here's why. I could only imagine hollowed out worlds and siphoned up seas, a great dusty desert where the asteroid belt had once been. And I think we need a comma there. No, we don't. We don't have to. I could only imagine hollowed out moons, siphoned up seas, and a great dusty desert where the asteroid belt had once been. I want the beat to be on the first part of that sentence, and I'm gonna leave it that way. But that's one where you're correct, and the editor will probably agree with you and be like, "Fuck this." But just from a like phrasing standpoint, I could only imagine hollowed out moons and siphoned up seas, a great dusty desert where the asteroid belt had once been. Yeah, I don't want "and" in there. So yeah, it's just like a style thing, and I don't think that will knock readers out of their place. And that's just for the audiobook more so than anything else, because it's just got like this little dramatic weight to it that the other way doesn't have. I was reminded of my time on Ananke Station, tripping over tangled pneumatic lines and huddling with the others as we slowly froze to death in the dark. How did we ever dream we could fight this? Ahead of me, the closest line of freighters had a subtle arc that crossed my path, 100 kilometers beneath me. I began to get a feel for the tremendous speed of insertion. I was passing 7 or 8 ships each second. We were coming in so hot. A shudder of excitement ran through my shoulders. I would suffer tremendously during deceleration. Okay, cool. Ahead, a dark shape eclipsed the sun. My breath caught as I recognized it from our silhouette training. A collaborator Kluland B-type destroyer moving into an intercept course. The reactor blazed, and my Yama pulsed to life around me. Time to die. See, so how deep are we into? We got another hour. You think it's too much tremendous? Oh, yeah. Let's just make this incredible. Because I want him to suffer tremendously. Yeah, usually. I like it. Okay, so that was like a pretty short chapter. And this is the lashi, the Chinese for shit. Let's try and get through another chapter, boys. Embiggened. During the briefing, XEROS was adamant. We were not to fire our reactors until we reached the corona. We were to trust in our field generators, which would render us virtually invisible. Quenched and clenched. Those were their orders. Lashi. I doubted we were anything near invisible. I broke my orders and fired my reactor, feeling my ship jolt to life. So we're repeating ourselves here in these two chapters, right? There's a little lag between the two, but fuck it. I think we've earned that repeat right there, but not the double repeat of blah blah. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a black whirl gliding by, the faintest stress on the fabric of nothing. Corrupt had abandoned the order even faster than I had. I diverted hard and followed him. Compression fluid hardened around me like cement. I glanced back, expecting to see Liar following us, but there was no sign of him. I began to wonder if perhaps he really was invisible. But then I saw the faint smear of his Yama streaking across space. Liar never fired his reactor. He followed his orders, right into the side of the destroyer. His Yama vanished in a silent flare, and I clenched my jaw, awaiting annihilation. But there was no all-consuming conflagration. The Barian bomb had not deployed. Had Liar died in null space, or simply given up? I had no time to wonder. Our presence was no longer secret. Was no longer a secret. I had no time to wonder. Our presence in the system was no longer a secret. I gripped the spurs and throttled up. For a year, I had touched these controls over only once every 200 hours for alignment. Now I could cry havoc and let slip the throttle of my bomber. I was free. I could fly. I had drilled so long for this moment. My veins sang with euphoria as the reactor burned brighter, infusing my ship with power. The compression fluid was thrumming against my eardrums in time with my heart. for a year. There we go. I was immune to most of the first battle pitfalls. My mouth couldn't go dry. It was flooded with compression fluid. If I soiled myself, it didn't matter. I was cathed and tubed up. The ship had been a part of me for a year. I knew every gurgle and throb as intimately as the beating of my own heart. I was ready. I rocketed forward, bound for the sun. Corrupt was racing ahead of me. Even though I knew he was there, I could barely keep eyes on him. When I tried to focus on his ship, his outline rolled out of my vision like a floater. Lose sight, lose flight. I must have heard XEROS say that 100 times. Missed 2 edits before that one, but yeah, we are hyphenating null space. Oh, let's get all those. Yeah, fuck. I was so far ahead. I'm excited by the story, and yeah. And then we had a double hard and followed him. Yeah, that's got to go. Where's the double followed him? I diverted hard and followed him. Compression fluid hardened around me like cement. Double and is right before liar null space. Okay, cool. Okay. I glanced back, expecting to see Liar following us. There was no sign of him. I began to wonder if perhaps he really was invisible. But then I saw the faint smear of his Yama streaking across space. Liar never fired his reactor. He followed his orders, right into the side of the destroyer. His Yama vanished in a silent flare, and I clenched my jaw, awaiting annihilation. But there was no all-consuming conflagration. The Barian bomb had not deployed. Yeah, so I'm missing it. I diverted hard and followed. Oh, that's where. Okay. I thought, yeah, there it is. God. All right, so I'm going to give you 3 points there. There we go. Whew. Up. I love that he can't shit himself because he's wearing a catheter and there's a tube up his ass and his mouth can't go dry because he's suspended in fluid. Ugh. And he can't run away either because he's like flying at 100,000 kilometers a second. You know, it would take tremendous energy to turn or do anything. Lose sight, lose fight. I must have heard Suro say that 100 times. I killed thrust and sent my bomber in a transverse longitudinal roll, doing a quick sweep behind me for potential threats. Behind us, Shoutouts to transverse longitudinal rolls right there. So the nice part about it here is like, you know, you're in a spaceship flying directly towards something. You can just like roll. It's not a big problem there with the thrusters and continue flying forward because there's no air resistance to fuck you up. Behind us, the destroyer was turning ponderously, like a drunk wheeling about to see who'd throw something. Yeah, let's. The Kulan destroyer was turning ponderously, like a drunk wheeling about to see who'd thrown something. Liar's suicide was just a pinprick in the side of the behemoth. The destroyer was a Kulan Class B type crossfire. The crossfire line was obsolete by several generations, and one of the smaller collaborator classes. She was still 100 times larger than our bombers. The destroyer was heavily armored and bristling with guns. All right, let's start again at the beginning of this paragraph. Behind us, the collaborator destroyer was turning ponderously, like a drunk wheeling about to see who'd thrown something. We don't need, do we want wheeling about or do we want wheeling? I'm torn. Like a drunk wheeling to see who'd thrown something. I like wheeling about. Liar's suicide was just a pinprick in the side of the behemoth. The destroyer was a Kulan Class B type crossfire. Kulan Class type B type crossfire. Yeah. The crossfire line was obsolete by several generations. The Kulan line was obsolete by several generations. It was one of the smaller collaborator destroyers. It was one of the smaller collab boat. No, I don't like that. The Kulan class was obsolete by several generations. They were tiny compared to Hezo destroyers. But this crossfire was still 100 times larger than our bombers. The destroyer was heavily armored and bristling with guns. So we need to figure out what pronoun we're going to use for here. And I'm taking out the her for most of this. She was a Kulan Class B type across. Let's take out B type. It doesn't really add anything. She was a Kulan class crossfire. The Kulan class was obsolete by several generations. They were tiny compared to Hezo destroyers. But this crossfire was still 100 times larger than our bombers, heavily armored, and bristling with guns. Streams of glittering tinsel were issuing from the turrets, turning golden in the sunlight. For an instant I was stupidly captivated. The barrage was too pretty for me to recognize it as a threat. I was stupidly captivated. The barrage was almost too pretty for me to recognize it as a threat. Flak! Each filament of light was a streaking cluster bomb. The destroyer couldn't draw a bead on our stealth bombers. Maybe just take out... Oh, yeah. Yeah, because we say it's a Krugland crossfire earlier. Yeah, good. Good cut. I like it. The Kulan class was obsolete by several generations, and they were tiny compared to Hezo destroyers. Oh, yeah. Heavily armored and bristling with guns. Streams of glittering tinsel were issuing from the turrets, turning golden in the sunlight. I was stupidly captivated. The barrage was almost too pretty for me to recognize it as a threat. Flak! Each filament of light was a streaking cluster bomb. The destroyer couldn't draw a bead on our stealth bombers, so it was blanketing space with its anti-missile defenses. I whipped my ship back towards the sun so fast I nearly knocked myself out. When my head cleared, I saw I'd overcorrected. It was too late to change course. I could only hammer the throttle forward, riding it until my vision began to gray out. I was determined I would either outrun the flak or be unconscious when it killed me. Ahead of me, Corrupt had the same idea. He was burning so hard I could see the orange-red rings of his thrusters, glaring through the field effect like a pair of angry eyes. As I diverted left, I passed through his vapor trail, and my ship flinched at the momentary touch of superheated gas. I squinked a chiding gout of compression fluid out of the side of my mouth. No, we can't do that. As much as he's too scared to chide. As I diverted, I passed through his vapor trail, and my ship flinched at the momentary touch of superheated gas. My Yama was in for a rude awakening if we survived to reach the Corona. Yeah, he was just like doing that, and it's totally inappropriate for the tenor of the scene at the moment right there. I think I just thought it was cool, but it doesn't fit. A thousand golden motes exploded, flooding space with a static storm of shrapnel. Flying directly away from the destroyer, Corrupt was safe. Golden sparks were racing ahead of my ship, the shell's most energetic outliers. I was in range, and a single touch was death. I was in range. A single touch was death. I rammed my throttle forward to the limit. You got the gout and it chides. I just ate a bunch of asparagus too. And I'm like having weird pains and like my joints and everything after it. Fucking gout. That always happens. It felt like being belted by XEROS, but across my... Yeah, I don't like that. It felt like my body was being crushed in a giant's fist. The diaphragm assist kept pumping, but I couldn't breathe. I told myself to hold thrust for a 10 count, but after 7 beats, I couldn't remember how But I couldn't remember what came after 7. Everything became confused. I'm not sure if I managed to throttle down, or if the Yama simply couldn't continue. Yeah, I like hyphenating 10 count. Everything became confused. I'm not sure if I managed to throttle down, or if the Yama simply couldn't continue. I floated on the edge of unconsciousness. My head felt like a balloon, inflating and deflating with each pulse. My head was a balloon, inflating and deflating with each pulse. I think that's too much. I strained my ears for the telltale hiss of fluid escaping through a punctured carapace, but they were only the familiar sounds. I only heard the strained pinging from the oh, I don't like that. We have so many italics. Yeah, you should absolutely have italics there. I was alive. Yeah, we every fucking other word is like italicized in this chapter. We're so like over dramatic. I was alive. I had a few moments to buzz with adulation as my heart fought to get blood back into my brain. I'd outrun the flak, but the gauntlet had already begun. My eyes were drawn along the endless lines of freighters. Somewhere ahead was the star mine. Corrupt had flown so far ahead of me his thrusters were only pinpricks. If I wanted to catch up with him, I would have to go nearly full burn. If I wanted to catch up, I would have to go full burn. Let them take the hits. XEROS' voice ran in my ears. I had intended all along to defy him and race ahead on my own, but it hadn't worked out that way. The others were all gone, and now Corrupt had panicked. He was racing ahead with his jets wide open, showing his ass to the destroyer. I knew he was a dead man. Oh, we do need that comma. Yep. Hell yeah. Yeah, are you liking this shit? I'm like heart's like racing a little bit with all the shit that's going on. The fool would draw Diu down on both of us. I needed to get out of the line of fire. With my nose pointed at Sol, I accelerated until I heard the rumble of my own jets kicking in. After I thought I'd burned long enough for the destroyer's gunners to plot my trajectory, My eyes were drawn to the freighters could be reworded. Yeah, let's see. I was racing along the endless lines of freighters. Somewhere ahead was the star mine. Okay, let's just use soaring there. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Okay. I burned for a few seconds, giving the destroyer's gunners time to plot my trajectory. I engaged vertical thrust and pivoted left towards a silver line of freighters. Maybe a period. I don't like somewhere ahead was the star mine. I like bound for the star mine better. Words plus plus. Oh, I don't think that you can get on the leaderboard. Yeah, it only responds to shit from me. But shout outs to Coffee Quills. The name is familiar. I don't know if I've seen you on the screen before. We're so close to the end. Right here, we have 44 pages left. So the plus plus one right here, we have a leaderboard for accepted edits. So these are all the people who have submitted edits. It goes down a little bit further too over the course of this edit. And at the very end, everybody will get their place in the book, and the top 3 people will be able to put in a single line of text of their choice. Oh, you weren't live? Okay, cool. Yeah, you always want to be live. I do that shit. Like when like somebody starts talking to me or something, I'll pause like whatever YouTube stream I'm on, and then like I'll forget about it and be like way off of live. I cut throttle and let the field generator kick in. Then I engaged vertical thrust and pivoted towards and leaned towards a silver line of freighters. My plan was to hide behind the endless train of ships so the destroyer couldn't track my silhouette against the sun. But I'd made an error. I'd gauged the distance to the freighters by expecting them to be the same size as Hezo's supply ships. But these solar freighters were far larger than even the UNESCO freighters. They must have been 30 kilometers long. I was only halfway to the line when the destroyer launched the next salvo. The first shell exploded, perhaps 100 clicks ahead of my ship. Watching the flak pattern, I realized the gunners on the destroyer were supercharging their mass drivers. The flak guns were meant to destroy missiles coming in, not bombers flying out. Now, the golden motes were hurled with so much force they were exploding in cones, glittering gouts of dragon's breath. The next shell burst even closer than the last. My ruse hadn't worked. Somehow they had a bead on me. Speed was more important than stealth now. I gave the thrusters more power, veering into a series of gut-twisting turns. Well, thanks for the follow there. The temperature inside my cockpit fluctuated from freezing to searing as my exchangers struggled to cope with the rapid shifts in output. Comma. My exchangers struggled to cope with the rapid shifts in output. My Yama ripped through space. Executing a twisting series of arcs that were less maneuvers and more sheer panics. There's no S in panics, but for all my efforts, wouldn't the compression fluid be a type of buffer on rapid temperature changes? Theoretically, I think the compression fluid is more about angular momentum than temperature. Yeah, let's take a look. Oh, yeah, we did capitalize that whole thing. Mm-hmm. Oh, Choose Knowledge had that first. I'm going to give it to Choose Knowledge, too. Yeah. So you both get a point there. Everybody wins. For all my efforts, the collaborators were still tracking me. My eyes locked on a golden streak and the canopy lens forward, trying to resolve the shell. As it shot towards me, I felt a strange sense of calm, certain this was the last thing I'd ever see. But the shell shot past me, less than 500 meters from the nose of my ship. My body went rigid, as if tensing up could save me from being eviscerated. If the shell popped, I was a dead man. Yeah, we need to work on this paragraph. Yeah, there's that somehow that Stratum was talking about. Oh wait, that was Logic's comma point. No, I don't like that. I couldn't shake them. My eyes locked on a golden streak flying towards me. I felt a strange sense of calm. Certain it was the last thing I'd ever see. If the shell popped, I was a dead man, but it sailed on, bound for the sun. The canopy lens telescoped as I tracked the fleeting bomb, and then I could see a rippling shadow, twin rings of burning jets. I wasn't the target. The cluster bomb scored a direct hit, and Dragon's Fire scoured corrupt ship. So I get that, and At the very limits of canopy magnification, I could watch the black diamond of his bomber disintegrate into shards of Corybantic phase confetti. Then everything went black. I wondered if the Baryon bomb had killed me, but the familiar sounds of my ship pulsing and my reactor singing said otherwise. But the familiar sounds of my ship said otherwise. Corrupt's reactor had exploded. My canopy had gone opaque to keep it from blinding me. Yeah, there we go. So we're really taking some liberties with him being able to see some of the shit that's going on. All this would be happening, like the idea of him like tracking a streak coming towards him at this incredible velocity and so forth, of him like watching the ship break up and so forth. It's really almost superhuman, the perception time that he would need for this. But this is a novel, and those are things that we want to describe. So we're just knowingly fudging some of that stuff. And there's going to be more of that coming up, right? And, we can try to explain it away. It's like, oh, there's like a little time dilation when you're in, adrenaline and so forth. But nah, like in real life, like this is be done. But again, it's a story. I thought the Baryon bomb had killed me, but the familiar sounds of my ship said otherwise. Corrupt's reactor had exploded. My canopy had gone. Corrupt's reactor had exploded, and my canopy had gone opaque to keep it from blinding me. Thank you, I blubbed into the compression fluid. Thank you, I blubbed into the compression fluid. The ship couldn't understand, but it needed to be said. I like that. Let's see. If you're wondering how he eats and breathes and other science facts, just repeat to yourself, it's just a show. I should really just relax. For XEROS Science Theater 3000. All right, what do we got? My canopy slowly cleared. My canopy cleared and I shot towards the freighters, eyes alert for the sparkle of shrapnel. My mind was burning as hot as my jets. No bomb. Corrupt's ship had been sliced to ribbons. The antimatter containment field would have surely been breached. Liar's crash should have annihilated the destroyer and everything else for 1,000 kilometers. Addict had been on the edge of madness as he threatened to deploy. Back in the bubble, Addict had been on the edge of madness when he threatened to deploy. He hadn't been too afraid to trigger. He was sitting on a dud. Did the Hezo only have enough antimatter for one bomb? Was I the only one? Was this whole thing just Suro's sick idea of a joke? I didn't have long to think about it. I sped towards the silver line of freighters. I sped towards the silver line as shells exploded all around me. Suddenly, my canopy was full of golden sparks. I braced for the killing crack of shrapnel piercing my carapace. No, let's check out that. Suggestion. Though my canopy had gone opaque to prevent me from blinding me. Oh, I see what. So what he's getting at is there is like how would he know that the reactor had exploded? Um, Corrupt's reactor had exploded. Corrupt's reactor had exploded, and my canopy. Corrupt's reactor had exploded, and my ship. My Corrupt's reactor had exploded. My canopy had gone opaque to keep it from blinding me. Like I see where you're coming from, and I'm gonna give you a point. Okay, let me just make sure that nothing has exploded. Oh, oh, shoutouts to Chinese women messaging me. Oh, cool. All right, cool. Let's see. Shoutouts to Chinese ladies. Yeah, it's. I see where you're coming from, but I didn't have long to think about it. I sped towards the silver line as shells exploded all around me. Suddenly, my canopy was full of golden sparks. I braced for the killing crack of shrapnel, but my luck held. My reactor roared, my thrusters howled, and I reached the silver line of freighters. I reached the freighters. My reactor roared, my thrusters howled, and I shot behind the freighters and began to decelerate. Just as I'd thought, it was agony. Yeah, that's not good. Oh, I don't have to worry about it. Logic, like, no date with like Chinese women ever seems to work out for me. Once they find out that I don't really know much about the current infrastructure, they're like, yeah, I can't take down a power station with you. Fuck that. Well, what they don't know is I would like gladly sabotage the United States in exchange for vagina. C'est la vie. It's because they're so culturally conservative. Yeah, it just doesn't really work out. The other part of it too is like, I didn't go to college, and as soon as a Chinese woman finds that out, she's like, okay, you're done. Next. It's literally that, just like that. Um, and like they have no idea like what I actually make, or what my prospects are, or that I'm an amazing author or whatever. They're just like, oh, no degree, no pussy, get out of here. It's really like that. Um, oh yeah, it should be evolve, but I don't think we'll have evolve either. It was agony, like my body was being crushed in a hydraulic press. Oh, it's not involve but resolve. The dates are part of a long con to lower your defenses until a real spy engages with you. This is the one. Uh, so Justin Toole says, your writing is death by eyes. You ever try changing the style? It's pretty elementary. Yeah, like each of the books that we write is like a little a bit different. And we don't always use first person past when we do stories, but this story is written in first person past. So there are going to be a lot of eyes. It was agony, like my body was being crushed in a hydraulic press. The blurred line of freighters resolved in individual ships as I braked. When I decided to cower... Let's see. I'd hoped the Clabs wouldn't risk firing on their own men. Let me see. I thought that also, but since I'm unfamiliar with your work, I assume what I just said about it to be the case. Yeah, like when you write anything in first person singular, the word "I" is going to be like one of the most common things in the book. And as you're actually reading it and not like editing it, your eyes will gloss over each one of those eyes, because that's what pronouns are meant to do. They're not meant to be a huge obstacle to people talking with you. They're meant to be something that is less conscious than like a full name or something like that. They're there to do the work of letting you know this is this person, but they do it in a less obtrusive way than like my name is Trader McMorrison Gazandowitz or whatever the fuck this guy's name is. But it's also a spot where potentially our editor will come through and be like, okay, let's just like change this up with some pronouns. But there's, if you read any first person narrative, you will see that eyes abound. I soon learned why. The freighters were unmanned. I realized why. The freighters were unmanned. They had no cockpits, only the thin stalks of sensor arrays. Of course they were automated. It should have been obvious, but I'd spent so long under the Hezo boot, I'd forgotten such things were possible. We need a comma there. The destroyer blasted indiscriminately, peppering the line of freighters with a steady hail of flak. I fought to keep the twisting silver line between me and the destroyer, terrified something would make it through the narrow gap between each freighter. How in DU were they still on top of me? This should be italics. Bup, 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 bup. I was field stealthed, zero sum, full organic. I like that he's like waving it around like it's a fucking Trader Joe's receipt. Somehow, comma, the gunners on the Crossfire had a constant lock on my position. And Crossfire shouldn't be capitalized. And it shouldn't be capitalized in any of these other spots. Give me 1 second. Oh, wait. No, it's like a fucking... You would think of this in the same way as saying like an Apache. And I think you would capitalize Apache. All right, so Crossfire is capitalized. Okay. Why not? I complete... Oh, well, shout outs to Coffee Quills right there. Thank you for your participation in this social experiment. Yeah, you're 100% right that it should be capitalized. Because it's just like saying like an M1 Abrams or, well, M1, it's not quite the same if we like say something that's like a, but you would capitalize Warthog and like A10 Warthog or something like that. Oh, yeah. Well, you don't have long left because we actually did more editing today than we normally would. So we might have one less day of editing. Hopefully not. We can always go back and fix some other shit. Oh, yeah, I don't want to do that if I have to do but, comma, somehow. I stubbed my toe on the answer. My secret weapon. I had given us away, gotten corrupt and liar both killed, and my turn was next. I had given us away and gotten corrupt and liar both killed. My turn was next. I'd outrun the flak, but the destroyer had more cards to play. The artillerymen on the crossfire switched guns and raked the line with their quad-link chain driver. All right, let me know if quad-link chain driver sounds like utter faggotry to any of you. It sounds like a little bit Warhammer to me, but several ships ahead of me was a skeleton barge, a spindly ribcage hauling captured asteroids. A spray of white-hot iridium rails lanced through the massive... Sounds dope? All right, cool. A spray of white-hot iridium rails lanced through the chunks of nickel iron like a fork through blueberry gelatin. Shoutouts to that callback. Very obviously indulgent. Yeah, do you think we can get away with it, Stratum? Like, it's... Well, the other part of it is he would know, like, exactly what... like, the thing is he's supposed to be, like, a rain man for, like, types of equipment and so forth, so he would know shit, like oh, yeah, it's that Stinger Scorp projector and whatever. We could just call it... We don't have to say quad link. We could just say chain driver. But I kind of like quad link chain driver. We're going to keep it for right now. Okay. At first, I was relieved they were off target, but then I realized they weren't aiming at me. They'd turned the space in front of me into a minefield of debris. I like that too, where they're just like, all right, let's just shoot at the front of this fucking line. So he flies into the debris. I don't know about lanced. No, I like lanced there. Absolutely. Especially when I think about something like being white hot. I like the word lancing because it reminds me of the plasma lances in Syndicate Wars. I can still remember the way plasma lance, the way that it would say that. Yeah, I'm all in on lanced right there. Yeah, that's exactly what I want that to say. And you could also think of it like lancing a boil or something like that. But yeah, I'm all in on that. I will not change that. I wrenched the Yama into a desperate spiral, pushing my ship harder than I'd ever dared before. The bomber's innards pulsed around me with the same urgency, mirroring my adrenaline shakes. The Yama weren't sentient. The drills told us they were no smarter than a mantis or a beetle. Still, my ship was a living thing. It could feel my terror, and it didn't want to die. I like that. Which, it didn't want to die is like really kind of undermines a little of that not a sentient thing there. But I'm glad that we could kind of like answer this question in the very same chapter where it came up, which is good. Like anytime I see that, I'm like, all right, I anticipated something that the reader will want to know, and it feels like I'm doing my job. On this, we were in full agreement. Yeah, we can just take out on this. No, actually, we need the on this. On this, we were in full agreement. I piloted the bomber in a crazy corkscrew around the line of freighter. This is so corny. On this, we were in full agreement. I piloted the bomber in a crazy corkscrew, dodging the railgun rain. That's the most cornpone line in the book. And there are a lot of fucking goofy lines in this. I piloted my bomber in a crazy corkscrew, dodging the railgun rain. Ugh. Ugh. Oh, that hurts. It's so corny. Oh, it's staying in. Like I'm not saying that because I'm taking it out, but I piloted my bomber in a crazy corkscrew, dodging the railgun rain. The sun loomed larger and the shots flew wider. I was outrunning the barrage. My canopy grew darker. The sun was out swallowing the other stars. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. The real terror began. Oh, oh, oh. Oh, I flashed on Yakety Sax. At least Stratum is with me here. That this is some fucking ridiculous. Does it make it better or worse if we leave gargantuan freighters in? Oh, I think it's less fucking stupid with there. He has to stay anyway because of the intro corkscrews. No, it was good to remove all. Okay. Uh, 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 uh. In the golden age of science fiction, nobody would have fucking blinked at that. Be like, oh yeah, of course. Whoop whoop whoop. Uh, sorry, caps. Yeah, no, it's good to remove. Okay, so we got through all 10 pages. Like, oh, the bringer of jollity. Oh, I like this one right here. Shout outs to the bringer of jollity. What a chapter. So this is like one of the more action-packed chapters. And remember, we know from the beginning of the book that we still have more interceptors to fight against. So there's going to be at least one more action sequence in the story. I like this okay. I do think that we get a little free with some of our language towards the end right there. But ultimately, I'm pretty happy with the chapter. And I think it is exciting. And like people have been building up to this the whole time. So let's see how many words we got through today. So the winged messenger. So here we start getting into some Holst, the planets type shit. All this stuff is fine. Since we can't have visual depictions, we have to show the absurdity of what's going on somehow. I guess so. Oh, and then so we did also Lashy right there. It's like, shit. All right, what do we get? And it does, to me, it felt like an exciting chapter. Like I felt like a little bit of like the excitement and adrenaline as we're editing through it. Oh, 226, thank you. And you actually, in spite of myself, where I thought he wasn't like a very sympathetic character at all, I actually give a shit like what happens to Trader at this point. So tremendous progress today. This may be the most chapters. And the chapters get shorter as we go on here, which is great, which means that we can do more breaking points. So 1349. 7. Is that like our biggest editing day ever? 226. Let me roll up. I think we might have done like a 4,000. Yeah, there's a 4,000 up there. Yeah, so chapter 3 and 4, we did a 3-hour session that was longer. And chapter 6 was one that was probably like the Legend of Arcturus, where we did like that big long ass chapter, but still really, really good. So I'm going to give. Logic says, I know what I want it to be. You know what you want what to be. Like, yeah, so let's get some feedback here. I think this is okay, right? It seems like not too much of a diversion from the other thing. And we're really down to like the last, we'll do this for like 4 more days and then our book will probably be done. This is okay. This tracks to me. And I don't think we've broken any laws of physics. We fudge a little bit on what people's reaction speeds can be, and you can be like, oh, well, they had some surgery to do whatever. Later, we like have another mechanic to try and explain some of the shit that's going on as it's getting real trippy. So 19 will be the bringer of jollity. Okay, but yeah, so overall, I think this is pretty good. We got some good work done today. Thank you, Choose Knowledge, Logic, Stratum, everybody else that joined up here. Spathy Wah, who popped his head in for a second there, but then had like Logic keep scheduling meetings during edits so that he can win this one. And shout outs to Logic for finally winning one of these edits right here. It was like a lot of hard work. All right, yeah, cheers. Thank you for joining. It was super fun. And we do this every single day. This week, I'm going to be working on two things. A merch store where you can buy Zach ZYZ branded shirts and shit. Why you would do that, I don't know. But you're welcome to do it. Merch store. And I think I'm redesigning my websites while I'm awaiting these new PCs coming through here. So good times had by all. Also doing more research on our like van mission right there. I'm starting to think that I may not even have to like yeah, good stream. I will be here tomorrow. If you like these things and just want like some droning voice in the background, on this YouTube channel, there are playlists for all of our other things that we've done. Some of them are like 200 hours long, and each of them is this same kind of me reading stuff and making a fool of myself and so forth. And you get to hear an entire story slowly evolving as it's going on. If you want to listen to one that's also space stuff, but it's also pretty goofy, there's an edit called Space Tards about a bunch of Marines who are infused with tardigrade DNA so that they can resist radiation, but it also makes them retarded. So much like the Marines of today. So check that out. But otherwise, everybody have a good time, and thank you for your help.